Okay, now I'll be covering the cerebral motor cortex, the clinical anatomy related to the motor cortex. Okay, so all the motor areas you have been taught. Now we'll be talking about one by one, each of them. Destructive lesion of primary motor cortex, area number 4. So area number 4, in short, you remember, it was controlling the opposite voluntary muscles of the opposite half of the body, right? So if there will be a lesion here, so what will happen? Initially, there will be paresis, voluntary paresis of the affected part of the body. Like paresis and paralysis, there's a difference. Paresis is like weakening of the muscles. Initially, you will find he will not be, able to, maybe he will be able to walk, but will be with the help of a aid, like walking aid, like with a stick, walking stick. Means he is weak in the muscular activities of the opposite half, and that is called voluntary paresis. But it may extend further, causing irreversible damage sometimes, and that is called paralysis. So if it leads to paralysis, then of course the opposite half of the body is paralyzed, and that is called hemiparalysis. And paralysis may what happens is, now again this one is a upper motor neuron lesion, so there will be a spastic paralysis, right? A spastic paralysis may the muscle tone is not lost, right? There will be no wasting of the muscles, and there will be jerky reflexes, hyperreflexia hoga. But at the end, the functioning of this, desired functions, what you plan to do, like you walking, you're writing, you're playing with your hand, all these voluntary skill activities, they lost. So this is called a spastic paralysis of the opposite half of the body. Now, if further this lesion continues down and reaches to this projection fibers, because there were fibers, corticonuclear, corticobulbar, corticospinal tracts arising from this area number 4. So if this lesion reaches and beyond to that, and might cause a lesion to a small part of a group of fibers at the internal capsule or at the medullary centers, and that's called a focal irritative lesion. So if there is a focal irritative lesion, that will lead to focal convulsive movements. Focal means small area. So this focal convulsive movements of the corresponding part of the body, right? And that's called Jacksonian epilepsy. Like and other functioning, remember, otherwise is all its functioning, sensations, motor activities, speech, and everything is absolutely normal. See, this person will behave absolutely normal sitting in front of you, but in between, at a certain regular or irregular intervals, you will find he will keep making twitches, like movement of shrugging his shoulders in between. Sometime he might have a jerky movement at the elbow or in the hand, just like sitting, and suddenly at regular or irregular intervals. So those, because jerky, why? Because it's all upper motor, right? So upper motor neurons. So focal lesion will involve convulsive movements. Convulsive movements are actually called epilepsy, and this happens to a small part of the group of muscles, part of the body of the opposite half, right? And that's called Jacksonian epilepsy. बैठे बैठे बंदा अपना कंधा जो है कभी ऊपर उठा लेता है ऐसे, या मीडियली ट्विस्ट करने लगता है, या एल्बो में मूवमेंट आने लगता है जल्की. You mean what? इसको याद करना भी आसान है. जो कार्ड्स गेम होते हैं उसमें एक जैक होता है, किंग, क्वीन, जैक. जैक मीन्स अ जोकर. सो बिहेवियर इज दैट टाइप. सिटिंग डाउन, यू इमेजिन कि ये जोकर जैसी हरकत क्यों कर रहे हो, तो वहां से यू कैन रिमेम्बर कि बैठे बैठाए उसमें ट्विचेस होंगे जॉइंट्स पे, किसी ना किसी जॉइंट्स पे, बिकॉज मसल्स का रिप्रेजेंटेशन नहीं होता, जॉइंट्स का रिप्रेजेंटेशन होता है। मसल्स अल्टीमेटली आर एक्टिंग ऑन द जॉइंट्स। सो किसी ना किसी जॉइंट पे कोई ना कोई जर्की मूवमेंट्स इरेगुलर होता रहेगा, एंड दैट्स कॉल्ड जैक्सोनियन एपिलेप्सी, focal convulsive movements of the corresponding part of the body. Okay. Now, lesion of supplementary motor area number 6. I told you that this supplementary motor area is MS2, capital M, right? So predominantly it is motor in function, and this is the extension of the premotor area on the area number 6 on the medial side, medial surface over to this medial frontal gyrus, and that's called supplementary motor area. And remember, I told you the prime function of this was to execute those bilateral, sequential, skillful, organized movements. इसमें एग्जाम्पल दिया था मैंने कथकली डांस का. Okay, so that means if a lesion happens here, right, maybe of thrombosis, ischemia, indirect in trauma, whatever, injury can be of different reasons. So what will happen now? It will cause apraxia. Apraxia is inability to perform a skillful task is apraxia. Okay, means otherwise it's fine, he's doing rest of the things very fine, but the skills which he adapted, which he learned, which he knows, he is desirous to do the same thing again, but he is not able to do that particular skill which he has attained, which is including bilateral, skillful, sequential, organized movement. Such skill is lost or hampered, and that is called apraxia, inability to perform the learned skillful movement. That is apraxia. Akinesia bhi hoga. Akinesia is loss of the muscle power to perform that activity, right? So these two are important words. Remember, apraxia and akinesia will come up when there will be an injury of the supplementary motor area number 6 on the medial surface of the cerebral hemisphere. Now, as I told you that this surface has a somatotropic representation, but the representation how in which type in direction is not very clearly given, but it does have a representation. So when this lesion in supplementary motor area number 6, if it involves the area of the hand, the intrinsic muscles of the hand, so it will hamper your writing, right? Yani ki with your, so many years back, you have started signing your name. Every time you sign, your sign is nearly the same. And that's a skill of your skeletal muscles of the hand, controlled by this supplementary motor area. Whenever you signing, remember, इस तरह से भी एक कथकली के साथ एग्जाम्पल ये भी याद आ गया तुम्हें. Signing करना या तुम्हें if writing, some people have a very good writing, some people have not so good writing. So writing also is a skill which involves the skeletal muscles. But हाँ, remember इसमें हम bilateral नहीं कर रहे हैं. So not exactly a very good example for this, but at least you should know. Agraphia क्या होगा? Agraphia is the inability of the writing skills. Okay, जो भी चीजें learned हैं already, you have learned those talent of the writing, a beautiful writing. So it all will get distorted after having injury of this area. Agraphia, that's called. The lesion of the frontal eye field area. A frontal eye field area is area number 6. No, frontal eye field area is actually the posterior portion of the middle frontal gyrus, and including both area number 6 and 8 reaching down to that. And I told you this area was controlling the conjugate movements of the eyes and stimulate upon. If this area gets stimulated, it um, causes the conjugate movement of the eye to the opposite direction. That what it was functioning as. Now, if this is area is under lesion, so what will happen now? The conjugate deviation of the eyes will move towards the side of the lesion. So this is important. Remember, ये इस तरह के eyes related questions clinical questions में बहुत बन जाते हैं. So frontal eye field causes the movement of the eyes to the opposite direction. Conjugate movement of the eyes to the opposite. That's the function. And when it is lesioned, so what will happen? This, because the other side, the this frontal eye field would be normal, so that will be unopposed action, right? So if there is a lesion here on the right side, so what will happen? The two eyes will move towards the right side, to the paralyzed side, because of the unopposed action of the left side. Okay. Then you have loss of voluntary deviation of eyes to the opposite. If one thing is like this, a person is suffering from a right-sided lesion of the frontal eye field area, so he will like in normal time you will find his eyes are focusing towards the right side if it's lesion on the right side, right? And if you ask him, sitting on the left side, if you ask him to look towards me, or meri taraf dekho, on the sitting on the left side, so he will not be able to move his eyes towards the left side, right? So loss of voluntary deviation of the eyes to the opposite side, because lesion ho gaya na, tab lesion to kya kar raha tha, opposite conjugate movement of the eyes to the opposite direction hi nahi ho raha isme, so he will not be able to move the eyes to the opposite direction. But to compensate for that, what will he do now? He will move his head to the direction to which he wants to see. So that is like a compensatory mechanism, right? And remember, I told you sometimes this area also not only controls the eye movements, but also the neck and the pupillary dilatation. So, but if lesion is here, then I believe that the movement of neck will also be hampered, right? And movement of because remember, this is connected to the visual eye field area or the occipital lobes. But one more thing is here, that involuntary movement although is possible. ये फ्रंटल मोटर एरिया है ना, अभी इनवॉलंटरी मूवमेंट्स के कनेक्शंस होते हैं एक्स्ट्रा पिरामिडल, राइट? एक्स्ट्रा पिरामिडल कनेक्शंस की वजह से इनवॉलंटरी मूवमेंट of the eyes to the opposite direction will be possible, like when you are like when you find any movement moving object in your visual field, like if you're sitting in a train and you're looking out of the window and you find you are like focusing something moving up outside, so obviously just unconsciously you are like subconsciously you're looking, and in that case your eyes will move to the opposite direction, even having after lesion of area number this frontal eye field area. That means it's not voluntary movement. Voluntary, if you'll try to ask him to look to the opposite direction, it will not be possible. But involuntary, he can look. Or maybe another example, let's say, like if this person is sitting who's having this lesion in the right frontal eye field area, his eyes are all the time looking towards the right side. But if there is a dark room, right, and somebody focuses a torch from the left side, so that may be now an involuntary response, and in that situation of time, he might be able to look towards the opposite side, that is the left side, because of certain stimulus of light from the left side, because it's involuntary. So that means what I'm telling is involuntary movements persist even after lesion to this area, because they have their connections different from the pyramidal tracts. Broca's area lesion. Now, Broca's area is area number 44, 45. That is, pars orbicularis, pars triangularis. Now, this, is functional on the dominant cerebral hemisphere, that is on the left cerebral hemisphere. And that was causing for the expression of speech. Now, if it is hampered, if it is there's a lesion on the left temporal hemisphere, left hemisphere, onto this superior temporal gyrus, this inferior frontal gyrus, where it's located on the inferior frontal gyrus. So what will happen that if it's on the dominant side, that is left side, this person will have inability to express what he wants to say, right? That is called as expressive aphasia, right? Expressive aphasia means he is well of comprehension, he is good of understanding to the visual and auditory commands. If you ask him what is your name, he will understand what you are asking him. That's an auditory command. If you give a pro forma or a paper on which it's like, printed, you have to filling up a form for a certain exam, you have to fill up all like name, address, location, age, height, sex, and whatever. So that is a visual command now, right? So that means he is able to understand with the help of visual or auditory stimulus. That is comprehension of language. That is being controlled by Wernicke's area. But when asked to give a response, then he is not able to give the clear response because of his lesion of Broca's area. And this is an expressive aphasia. So this person will, of course, be hesitant to speak. And because he knows that he has this problem, so he will be hesitant, and speech also will be distorted. But the last point, remember, relatively he has a good comprehension. Comprehension is like understanding of whatever is being asked, or whatever has been asked in form of auditory or a visual stimulus. Okay. Lesion of involving Wernicke's area. Wernicke's area is, actually is again a big area. I mean, it's an area which includes few adjoining areas. Let me tell you now about Wernicke's, although it will be taught in your sensory cortex. It's like, a part of the, the superior temporal gyrus, and extending onto the inferior parietal lobule. There is, supraangular gyrus and supramarginal and angular gyrus, where you have area number 39 and 40 also. So this is speech. This is language learning area, right? So language learning area, that's why it's called sensory, because what you learn is either through visual stimulus or through auditory command. Your primary schools में ABCD सिखाते हैं, वो कभी images से भी सिखाते हैं, or they give you commands also, auditory commands, and objects दिखा के, like if they show you an apple, they'll ask what is this fruit called. So that means visual stimulus से भी learning हो रही है ना. With the course of learning, you gradually develop these skills, and what has been asked, and it all gets saved in your memory. So visual and auditory stimulus. Anyways, if this, what I'm telling is, Wernicke's is the sensory speech area, okay, and Broca's is motor speech area. So if both are lesioned here, like lesion involving Wernicke's and Broca's, so what will happen now? Now there will be receptive aphasia. He is not able to comprehend what you are asking. He is not able to understand what you are asking. And because of that, of course, Broca's area bhi hai hai. So he will not be able to, even after giving repetitive commands, the questioning by the examiner, repeated questioning of the examiner, he will not be able to express out what is being asked. So the speech will be completely disorganized, disoriented speech, and it will be meaningless. Okay, that is receptive aphasia if both these are under lesion. receptive aphasia. Now lesion of Wernicke's, if like if now Broca's is normal, like Broca's is normal, and if Wernicke's is under lesion, that is sensory motor area is under lesion, and this Broca's area is working fine, which is on the frontal cortex, Broca's. So there is like a association areas, because both of them are on the same temporal cerebral hemisphere. Let's say on the left side, Broca's is dominant on the left side. So on the left side, Wernicke's and Broca's, both of them will be connected by association fibers, right, on the same cerebral hemispheres. So the bundle of white fibers which connects this Wernicke's to Broca's, and that's called arcuate fasciculus, and so also called superior longitudinal fasciculus. It is a bigger tract. It communicates the occipital and this parietal lobes to the temporal lobes and to the frontal lobes. So it's an arc running on a band of fibers, association fibers running on the supralateral surface. So through that arcuate fibers, it's Wernicke's connected to Broca's. So if what happens is either lesion of Broca's area, sensory speech area, including superior longitudinal fasciculus or arcuate fasciculus, what will happen? He will not understand. यहाँ पे क्या हो गया है? यहाँ पे इसमें sensory speech area is damaged. Means he is not able to understand what is being asked. If you are asking him, he will of course, because Broca's is fine, so his speech will be very good and he will speak everything fine. His words, his pronunciations will be correct, a fluent speech, but that will be a meaningless speech, means unintelligent speech, incomprehensive speech, right? So this type of speech is called jargon aphasia. पूछा जा रहा है, in short इसको समझ लो, पूछा जा रहा है, कुछ जवाब दे रहे हैं, कुछ. Got it now? क्योंकि उसको he is not able to understand what I am saying. And similarly, now when he is giving answers, he is giving repeatedly, a clear cut with full voice, with full, pronunciation, everything is normal because Broca's is fine. But he is not able to comprehend what is being asked. So whatever he is saying, the examiner is not able to comprehend. So it becomes an unintelligent speech. And this is called jargon aphasia. Okay. Now, voluntary smile versus genuine smile. Now, this also, remember, if while I was teaching you this Bell's palsy, remember, it's the ipsilateral palsy of the half of the face, right? In supranuclear Bell's palsy, supranuclear lesion of facial nerve, what was happening? It was involving the contralateral lower quadrant of the face, because upper half of the face has a bilateral representation. Basic सही है. supra facial nerve याद रखना important है. Facial nerve पे questions आते हैं. Supranuclear lesion and infranuclear lesion. Now same was in facial nerve injury also. That a person with having ipsilateral hemiparesis of the facial muscles, so that उसमें Bell's palsy में क्या होता है, the facials all they will be blank faces because of all the muscles, they will be paralyzed, and this is a lower motor, so it will be a flaccid paralysis. So what happens is the normal side will pull the muscles to the opposite side, so his lips and will be pulled to the normal or the opposite side, and when he'll try to blow, air will come out through the affected side, and all these things. He'll chew food, it will collect into the vestibulogingival vestibule between the gingiva and the cheeks. They were dribbling of saliva and all these things of facial method. Basically what was there was, when he was trying to attempt to smile, his lips will be even more pulled on the opposite. एक होता ना, खामोश से बैठे हुए हैं without any expression, so that others may not admire or not appreciate what, I mean, if this person is suffering from this paralysis. ऐसे बंदे होते हैं. I mean, unfortunately, if somebody is suffering from this Bell's palsy, he will try to make out as less expressions as possible so as to hide his paralysis. But if he attempts to smile, his face will be pulled towards the opposite side, right? Making his smile even more, distorted, right? So, I mean, let's read it, whatever it's written here. Motor cortex is required only for voluntary movements. Remember this now. As I was telling you, area number 4 is for your corticospinal tracts, right? So motor cortex से जो fibers आते हैं, they are involved. Even number 6, remember, even number 6 was involved with association with area number 4. It was involved in the muscles of the voluntary muscles of the limbs. But there was extrapyramidal tract, like the basal nuclei, the gray matter embedded within the cerebral hemisphere is called basal nuclei, and they were part of the extrapyramidal tracts, right? So there are also inputs reaching to those muscles of facial expression through the extrapyramidal tracts also, right? So if there is a lesion of this pyramidal tract or the cortex, because remember यहाँ पे जो point ले, the cortex controls the motor cortex required for the voluntary muscles movements of the eyes, right? But involuntary contraction of the skeletal, don't forget that skeletal muscles do contract involuntarily, okay? And that is in case of autonomic or subcortical response through the extrapyramidal tracts. So have you seen a stroke patient? If you've not seen it, patient is stroke. Stroke means if there is a hemorrhage in an artery supplying to this motor cortex or even the internal capsule. So what happens is after a stroke, there will be an attack of paralysis, hemiparalysis in case of injury to the area number 4 or 6. So this will person, because that was also carrying this corticonuclear, corticobulbar fibers also reaching to the facial nerve nucleus also. So obviously that person will suffer from supranuclear Bell's palsy. And supranuclear Bell's palsy mein what was affected part was contralateral lower quadrant of the face was involved, and that includes the lips of that side. So this smile will be distorted. When he'll attempt to smile purposefully, that will be distorted. Smile बहुत ज़्यादा जो होता है, ये being human beings, smile हम forcefully भी करते हैं, और एक चीज होती है involuntary, that's a natural smile. Even without any object in front, you sitting idle and smiling sometimes, imagining something beautiful. So what happens is this natural smile is a genuine smile, and now this smile also has this extrapyramidal connections, right? So in such cases, remember, of stroke patients or in case of Bell's palsy, there are there you find कि on giving voluntary commands to smile, or he himself voluntarily tries to smile, the face will become more distorted, but the natural or genuine smile persists. When you smile, actually both the sides, it is this what is that called zygomaticus major and minor together. They pull the angles of the lip on both direction, right? Don't confuse with levator anguli. Levator word, whenever you come with levator labii superioris, levator anguli oris. When we talk about levators, levator means you are lifting the lips vertically above, and in pulling the lips vertically above, it deepens the nasolabial folds. That is for showing your upper teeth. But smiling and laughing, actually you pull the angles laterally, right? Obliquely, laterally and upwards. And for that, mainly the muscle is zygomaticus major, but together both the muscles major and minor will also help you to smile. But because of Bell's paralysis, it's pulled to the opposite side, the normal side. But in natural smile, this genuine smile, this having extra pyramidal connections, his smile will be symmetrical, and will it stay symmetrical up till there is a genuine smile. Got it? So the stroke patient's voluntary smile will be lost, but natural smile will persist until there is a natural smile. There will be a symmetrical smile on both, on both the angles of the oral fissure will be pulled equally and will be a symmetrical smile. Okay, so that was all about this smile, and it will